What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, typology stuff. We'll try to keep this one brief because I am very dead at the moment. I think the biggest problem with INTJs, aside from all of the other biggest problems with INTJs, is their fussiness. On I think it was the last typology video we made, someone mentioned that little quirk that is true, that it seems like a lot of INTJs have this fascination with Germany, a definitively ITJ culture, but that fascination speaks to what I'm talking about. Because what is Germany? One commenter said something about how efficient German culture is. And I don't think you know what efficiency means. Germans overcomplicate everything. They get anal and rude and ugly about everything. And they're always moralizing about saving the world through what? Through bureaucracy? The world doesn't look very saved. Your country doesn't look very saved. All you've done is take steps backward from steps forward other people took for you, and you lose everything. Always. I'll tell you why, in my mind, or in my soul, Germany is at all relevant. At all worth caring about. Everything people act like Germany is great for, those are its faults, not its strengths. The one good thing Germany has is, for every 100,000 German-ass Germans Germany produces, it'll produce one exceptional individual. And those individuals are the least German Germans possible. There needs to be a mini-series following these exceptional German individuals as their paths cross through the crises they pulled their dumb country through. Because it is a procession of excellent Germans. Torch passers. World changers. In spite of the pit they needed to get a permit to crawl out of. But that's about 3 minutes of German slander. That's all we've set aside for this video. We'd need a committee vote to slander further. That is the issue with INTJs. They'll make a lifetime of plans, probably even generations of plans. But it's like they're making these plans in a void. Because the moment even the smallest thing happens against their plan, outside their plan, something unexpected, they fall apart. And it's like they never realize they are living in an existence that is uncooperative by default. Which is why being close with an INTJ is exhausting. Because they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll plan and they will reference all of this shit they've read, all of this shit they've studied. They'll clutter conversations, they'll clutter you, they'll clutter everything with information and then miss the most obvious shit, which will cause them to stumble. And when they stumble, what do they do when they fall off the horse? What do they do? The horse that they spent 500 years breeding and their lifetime training, and it's the best breed of horse, and here 1,500 books about why this horse should be the best horse, and then they fall off it. What do? They don't get back up on the horse. They throw a tantrum, They burn bridges, they take it out on people around them, and then they self-destruct. And after they've self-destructed, they do the exact same thing, but in a different direction. Meaning, they never really go anywhere. Most INTJs never really do anything, despite all their ambitions, all their aspirations. They're like the people in apocalypse media who spend their entire pre-apocalyptic life preparing for the apocalypse and then get shot because the apocalypse didn't go the way they thought it was going to go. Most INTJs lead these hyper complicated lives for nothing. They're so opposed to taking one real step in a direction. I think because they know the moment they take that step, they are truly at the mercy of existence. And existence is unkind. But the big irony here, and this is some devil's advocate shit, the the best gag of all time, I forget what the line is. Set the conditions in opposition. INTJs will almost never take a real step towards something that matters, but once the weight of their own useless overcomplication becomes too much to bear, what do? Always go on a sprint toward the most degenerate, most self-destructive thing they can get their hands on. They'll spend 5 years planning how to lead a better, healthier life, more satisfying life. And then some straw will break the camel's back, and then they'll take heroin. Or do heroin. And in the end, what are they? Moody little people with self-destructive habits. And that's bad for anyone who has to deal with them. But it's even worse for them because I think they know what they are. They know, or at least they know, they are not leading the lives they want to lead. Which is painful because for them, they have tertiary FI. You have never done something you've wanted to do. You built yourself the way you thought you were supposed to build yourself. You've lived, well, you've tried to live according to principles you thought you were supposed to live by, which, one, you probably aren't, and two, even if you were, you've fallen pretty far short of those. And ultimately, you don't know what to do about it, which makes you even more unpleasant to deal with and even more self-destructive when you get into one of your, or toward the end of one of your cycles. And I do hate INTJs because you're exhausting people. You are unpleasant people, at least at your core. You are untrustworthy because I don't know when you're going to act like a dickhead or a cunt and a maniac, but I do feel bad for them. The problem is I don't know how to help them because I don't think I've ever met an exception to that INTJ MO, which leads me to believe one of two things, and they seem equally likely, which you know is bad. Either no INTJ ever really breaks the INTJ curse, or when an INTJ breaks the INTJ curse, they cease to seem at all like an INTJ. Could be one or the other. All I can recommend is you break your perfectionism. And you do that first by realizing your idea of perfect itself isn't perfect. Even if everything went the way you think you want it to go, you'll still be unsatisfied because you're not setting your own parameters. I think INTJ's souls are basically or essentially rebellious, but then they live their lives under so many layers of conformity, it's wild. And in case you're dumb, counterculture, quotes, is its own set of standards, things to conform to. You're always playing to the crowd, even if that crowd doesn't exist or exists only in your mind. I don't think an INTJ can be satisfied until they are living in the world, which they must want to do because they drive themselves insane enough they need a break from themselves, which is where the self-destruction comes from. They don't know how to be in the world in a healthy way. You need exposure therapy, and you need to get good at failing and dealing with the pain of failure, which I think failure and falling short, all that, I think it feels to INTJs the way rejection and accountability feel to INFJs. But you get yourself used to that horrible feeling. Maybe it never goes away, but you can learn to live with it. And I'll tell you from working an executive job, the sort of job you should have, but my incompetent ass has instead, because I've mastered a few things. I've mastered faith. I've also mastered tard maxing. My version of locking in is like that mugshot of Tyler the Creator. That's how I look every day, that's how I feel every day, and that's why I am where I am, which is technically an executive of a shitty nonprofit that's not going to survive, but I still have it. Nothing ever works, and there's never a right time to do anything. If you believe in something, if you believe in a project, and you want it done, you need to put work in now and accept it's going to turn out poorly. Nothing is going to work. Nobody will help you, or everybody will flake. Probably people are going to hate you and judge you for the way it turns out. But if you don't do it now and figure out how to do it, jury rig it, and accept that it's going to suck and you're going to feel terrible and you're going to wish you hadn't done it, at least for a little while. Probably the moment you complete it is when you're going to hate it most. It'll never get done. Nothing will ever happen. And the reason you do this and accustom yourself to the process of this hell is you eventually build yourself a throne of garbage. And that sounds like it should be bad, but nobody else has a garbage throne. And you are sitting higher than the next guy is. That's why, for the first time in my life, in spite of what life is and where my life is going, I'm relatively satisfied with where I am. I built my garbage throne, and I'm enjoying the 5'9" view. And I think current you will probably hate where you end up, but the you who ends up where you could go will probably feel pretty good if you start swinging for the fences now. Don't wait until the ideal time has come. or you've perfected yourself enough that you finally think you're able to do it. That time will never come. You'll never be good enough. Nobody will ever approve of something you actually care about. At least if you're doing it in the way you care about it. Stop fucking around and start failing. Fail your way forward. Fail your way upward. Do you think people who are in these high positions deserve them? Do they seem competent enough? Are they producing good results? In almost all situations, no, but they're still there. And where are you? Sitting there with a pile of books and a pile of articles and your dick in your hand, resenting them and resenting yourself and going nowhere. For the love of God, do something. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.